Hi, good evening, everyone. We are really very pleased to have our 11th webinar this evening, and very pleased because this time we have Dr. Swati with us, and it's been a month-long wait, I think, Dr. Swati. The last time we had a unfortunate incident
My
because of which we could
apologies.
not have you. But yeah, I mean, really, we are glad that you're able to join. I'm going to pass on to Kinnari, who will do the introductions. Kinnari, over to you.
Yeah. Hello and welcome everyone, and a very warm welcome, Dr. Swati Popat Vats. We're very pleased to have you here, and I think no introduction is enough to introduce
Please don't
our guest for today. Yeah. So just quickly, I mean, if you just Google and type Swati Popat, you would find amazing amount of work that she's been doing as an Indian educationist, a parenting mentor, entrepreneur. She's an author in the field, both for children's books and other curricular aspects. Her expertise is in child psychology, pedagogy, and she is the president of the Early Childhood Association, the ECCE India, and the Association for Primary Education and Research. It would be interesting to hear about from Dr. Swati about both these associations. She also serves as the president of the Podar Education Network, one of the largest chains of early childhood, early years programs across our country, and the founder and the director of Podar Jumbo Kids and Podar Prep. And she has received recognition both domestically and internationally, has studied several countries' policies on ECCE. And yeah, like I said, with 40 or close to 40 years of experience, whatever we say and introduce about her would be less. So we're very pleased to have her today with us. And she brings to us the enormous experience about the large private sector in our country, right? And through the webinar series over the last 10 episodes, we've explored a range. We did a quick recap of this in our last webinar when Dr. Watts couldn't make it. And we've moved from, discussing the core issues at large scale in the country to going into specifics about the domain, about parenting, about vulnerable children or children in vulnerable contexts, and several NGOs doing work, right? So nutrition, we've covered enormous kind of information. We again had our colleague from Clay in one of our earlier webinars, and they took us through their perspective on early years education and aspects of quality. Today we have Dr. Swati with us again. So thank you, and we hope this webinar again will bring a range of insights into unpacking, understanding, and getting ideas for what more we can do in the sector. Right. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, so Dr. Swati, we usually begin the webinar with our first question being about, your personal journey. I mean, our invited guests walking us through down the memory lane that they would like to really walk us through. So over to you. Where did it all begin? How has this journey been for you? If you could briefly share with us.
So I think I played the game which most children love to play, especially girls, teacher, in my childhood, and I think I took it a little seriously because when it was time to do my major, select my major in SNDT, I was doing my home science with BSc, and you have to select your major. What are you going to be specializing in? And I wanted to take child development. That's when it was called child development and not human development. And my dad said, no, this is not something that I want you to get into, because he, sorry, he had the impression that early childhood, especially, is more of babysitting. So he said, I don't want you to get into this. And so then I had a huge tiff with him, and I left it. I did a lot more other courses, but then ultimately convinced him, and I did my early childhood qualification from Nirmala Niketan. And as part of that qualification, we were sent for internship. And I was sent to internship at a school called Hasanath High School. This is a
Mhm.
school in Andheri East. It's run by the Dawoodi Bora community, and it was completely project based. So the then principal was Sunita Goswami, and it
Mhm.
was totally, completely project based right up to 10th standard. So it was unlike what we look at education today. It was not that. So I was very
Right.
fortunate that not only was I an intern there, I worked there for 5 years after that.
Wow.
Then I felt now it's time for me to also explore other opportunities, so I joined Jamnabai Nursery School, where again I worked for another 5 years. Post that I joined Arya Vidya Mandir, both as a preschool teacher, and I was a lecturer in their teacher training program. So they had an ECCE course. So I was one of the faculty members in that. And then after that, I started my own consultancy. I said, it's time now. I've done a lot of teaching. I now want to
Mhm.
get into curriculum. And it was at that time that Eurokids had put a ad. It was not called Eurokids. It was called Egmont Publishing. They had put
Mhm.
an ad that they wanted somebody to be a consultant. So I applied for it and I met them. And I was their consultant. I helped launch their first 100 schools. So that's
Oh.
how I was with Eurokids.
Mhm.
And simultaneously, I set up a lot of other schools for individual entrepreneurs. I was their consultant. And then Podar called me for an interview and said that we want you to set up our teacher training institute. And we also want you to set up one preschool of ours.
Mhm.
And that's how Podar Jumbo Kids took birth. So I became the founder director of Podar Jumbo Kids. And there was a very, very important ask by Mr. Ganesh Podar, under whom I started. He said, I want your face to be part of Podar. So I don't mind if you are a consultant, but your face should be the face of Podar. So that's how I joined Podar, Podar Jumbo Kids. We franchised it, and then we changed. We brought another brand which is called Podar Prep, and
Mhm.
I have been with them now for around 25 years. But simultaneously, I've also done projects with Tata Sky. So if you see the Tata Sky has a program called Active Viz Kids. So I was with
Wow.
them for that.
Mhm.
Cambridge early years, I chased them for 6 years. That why does
Mhm.
your board not have an early years program?
Mhm.
Became their consultant for India, and Cambridge Early Years was introduced in India. Burlington, a lot of other companies, uh, because I believe that if you are coming into early years in this country, then you must come in with the quality benchmark.
Right.
There's already so much being done wrong that we shouldn't have big companies coming and doing wrong things because everybody looks up to them. So this has been my brief journey. I'm still with Podar, and Early Childhood Association happened 13 years back when
Mhm.
Dr. Sonawat and I had a cup of coffee and said, every country has an association. Why does our country not have a thriving association?
Yeah.
And that's when Early Childhood Association took birth, and a lot
Mhm.
of like-minded people joined us, and it's now become a movement, and we are very happy with the work that we are doing. We are a non-profit, and we love to work with the private sector, NGOs, government sector. So that's my short story.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, so fascinating to hear. I think what really caught my attention is the hard grind of being there at the ground level. Teaching, uh, teachering, being with the teachers. For almost 10, 15 years.
Yes,
Before you go on to do these marvelous things that today people know you for. I think it's very
yes,
important, particularly for our young listeners, that nothing comes easy, and one really have to have your hand, feet, everything on the ground, you know
absolutely.
and do all that, after which, of course, we can hope to some extent emulate some of the things that Dr. Swati's done. uh,
True.
yeah. So, Dr. Swati, just to touch upon the private space that you've been engaged in for with regard to early years. As Kinnari was sharing, we also had uh, colleagues from Clay
Hmm.
who spoke about as to how it was in terms of setting up the
Right.
play chain and the challenges that they have gone through. So I think it would be interesting to also hear from you in terms of, as you went into Podar, and even before that, in fact, you spoke about launching the 100 schools, the first
Yes.
the schools
Yes.
also
First
of,
100 schools of Eurokids.
for Eurokids. So, what kind of challenges did you find? Because obviously, I mean, that was also a time when probably there was demand for it from parents in terms of having formal early years education space.
Yes.
But then for the government or for any agency to even, allow you to operate, they may not have even understood the space. So, were there those challenges? Or because even we continue to be a little unregulated in some sense, sometimes you think that that's good, but at the same time we know what happens when it's completely unregulated. So if you could just talk to us about those early days and the challenges that you faced while you went about setting up so many of these earlier centers.
Sure. So, where laws are concerned, where registration is concerned, it was never there when I started setting up schools. I mean, you could just set up a pre primary without any kind of a permission from the government, without any kind of a law governing you. And in both the places, whether it's Eurokids or Podar, I was into franchising, which means franchising is another place where
Mm.
government is not involved, even now. So there are no laws where you have to register your franchise to a government body, etc. So you
Right.
see, you in both these places, whether setting up a preschool or setting up a franchise, there were no laws governing you. So which
Mm.
means your task actually becomes that much more difficult, of how to make people toe the line of quality. How do you tell a preschool owner or a franchise that you must do this? Because there is no law which tells them that you will be punished for it if you don't do it. So
Right.
that task becomes very difficult for the franchise owner, for the preschool owner.
Mhm.
Uh, because how do you make them understand the importance of not breaking a rule where safety is concerned, or where quality is concerned, or where teacher appointment is concerned?
Right.
That again, with your core employees are your teachers, and
Mm.
there is no common early childhood qualification in our country. So just like you have a B.Ed, which is common across pan India, you don't have an early childhood qualification which is common in all the states. So if you
Right.
are setting up in Karnataka, there will be another qualification there. They might
Mm.
say we have a 6 month qualification. You go to another state, they will say hum to 3 month ka bhi qualification accept karte hain. So
Mm.
there was so much of dysregulation, uncertainty when you are in a private early childhood sector, that you are actually making your own laws, you are
Right.
making your own quality standards, you are making your own little area where this is right and this is wrong. So you have to have
Mhm.
very high moral and ethical standards. I
Right.
always tell people that if you want to enter into early childhood, forget about your qualification or your passion. The
Mm.
first thing that you need to have is extremely high moral and ethical standards,
Mm.
because there is no law governing this sector. You are going to be the law, and that's why you can't be on the wrong side of the law. So it's your ethics, your morals that are going to dictate whether what you are going to do is right or wrong for the preschool. So this
Right.
is a huge challenge. Even now, if you see, registration of preschools have started in different states. The recent
Mm.
state that started it is Maharashtra.
Mhm.
Maharashtra, in fact, is ongoing right now. And we have handheld so many preschools into understanding how to do the registration, etc. Uh,
Mhm.
Punjab was recently, Punjab completed it. Gujarat is still on. Karnataka completed it. Tamil Nadu completed it. So a lot of states completed their preschool registration mandatory, which means if you have a preschool, you need to
Mhm.
register mandatorily on the state government's portal.
Right.
Some of these governments charge for it, some of them don't charge for it.
I
But
see.
yeah, even after registering, there is
Mhm.
nobody who's going to come and check you.
Okay.
And even the people who will come and check you, my argument always with government bodies is,
Mm.
if you are going to go and check a private sector school, Have you looked into your own schools? You can't have your own schools making so many mistakes and then you go and check a private sector school. So we need qualifications for them also. That what do you know about quality to come and check a private sector school? So that training, that capacity building also needs to be worked on. So this is the right now the situation of the private preschool sector. I am happy that there is some regulation coming. I'm very happy because otherwise, what I call the auntie next door schools. You know, anybody can open a school in their flat, ek room mein khol liya, kitchen mein khol liya. But when I go and tell them about it, that this is not good, they give me the example. Anganwadi ko dekho, wo bhi to aisi jagah pe hai. So it becomes a kind of, a hair pulling moment that then will we get an understanding about what is right and what is wrong for children.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. I think you really placed the issue squarely where it needs to be, and one is to invite the kind of regulations or frameworks from the government, but at the same time push hard to ensure that those who are going to look at those regulations or come and
And
assess, they are
if
highly
I
qualified.
Yeah, if I can add here, I'm not happy that all the states don't have similar parameters in their registrations. For
Mhm.
example, Gujarat has very
Mhm.
high fire safety standards.
I
Now,
see.
why are those not there as part of the other states?
Mm.
So Gujarat requires an NOC from the fire department for you
Right.
to start a preschool. And I think
Mhm.
it's a must. It's a
Yeah.
must. You have such young lives in that school.
Mm.
So you see, this dichotomy is something because education is a state subject in our country. It's a concurrent subject. States are able to change these kind of things, but I feel there should be some safety non-negotiables that should be made mandatory in all states because we're talking about children's lives.
True. True. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that you, in fact, began with regard to the ethical and moral compass, I mean, so critical, particularly when guidelines are also quite flexible and, just about beginning. So, how does one ensure the self-regulation happening, particularly with regard to, young children being around in that formal space? And I think you really put it up front very well. Kinnari?
Yeah, I think in terms of the idea of quality, right, irrespective of the space, and I think uh, when we say the private sector, the
Hmm.
spectrum there too is very, very wide, right? So I think,
Very.
yeah, I mean, in terms of the sheer resources to investment to then looking at the standards and how are we for each of these, I mean, the spectrum is just so wide. So I was as I was listening to you and saying that yes, there are regulations, you're setting standards, I mean, through the work that you've done, and there is still a long way to go. I mean, if we really looked for that universal private sector quality or universal ECCE quality, and of course the public system is on its path to really kind of get the investments and budgets and financing and training for teachers and get the community together to get its work on the ground going, right, in terms of quality, and especially the preschool education component. So that's one track, and here we have the private sector with this large variety. So yeah, I was again thinking through what you were saying to say that what do you think are the strengths of this sector, if we were to move there and say that what is it that we I mean, within this variation and variety, there are challenges of regulation, challenges of quality. I mean, that's what you beautifully brought out. I was wondering, how do we look at the strengths and where do we go from there, right?
So I'm so glad you asked that, because we usually end up criticizing the private sector, but we never talk about its strengths. And in I might sound a little dichotomous, but quality is one of its strength because they are able to invest in it. They have the money power behind them, so they are able to invest in quality. They are able to pay for good teachers. They are able to pay for those good quality equipment and toys. but again, that discerning power is lacking. So they end up wasting all that money on things which are not important. So they end up pandering to the client's ego. And so they feel air conditioners is what will make my school better, and fancy foreign toys will make my school better. So their entire understanding of quality is skewed completely, because they focus on the numbers. They're more focused on the business rather than the business of education. So quality is one of their strengths if they use it well. And I always, when I'm training franchisees, I always give them an example that if you went to a branded coffee shop, and what is it that you are actually looking for when you go there? Do you think the ambiance is the only thing that works for you, or is it the taste of the coffee?
Right.
Because that taste of the coffee is your curriculum, that taste of the coffee is your teachers. So if you are going to focus on your ambience and your or interiors and furnishings and all that, nobody's going to come and buy your coffee, because they ultimately came for the coffee taste. So
Right.
this needs to be, they need this kind of training to make them understand. So because their minds are so much into business, that you need to give them a business outlook into what are they killing, which is actually the right thing that's meant for this sector, the private sector. The private sector can actually become a benchmark. If you actually work hard, it can become a benchmark for the government. And I have seen an example in Singapore. So
Mhm.
in Singapore, the private sector does so well that the People's Action Party there set up government schools which were on par with the private sector. So if you now visit any of the PAP schools, which is the People Actions Party schools, they match any private sector school in our country, and it's a government school.
Mhm.
So I think the private government sector can work well together, where each can contribute. Like, for example, I tell private schools that you are able to afford training for your
Mhm.
teachers. When you are organizing a trainer, why don't you call your local government schools also to send their teachers to that training? What
Mhm.
goes of yours? I mean, you're not paying extra to that person, but
Right.
somewhere I feel one of the things that should actually become our strength is our largeness, our oneness. If you
Right.
all work together in the private sector rather than considering each other as competition, that would become our biggest strength.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Very beautifully
well
put.
said. Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
You also spoke about the quality and the emphasis on that, and even our some of our guests earlier have spoken of how quality gets driven when all stakeholders are invested in in what's happening really, right? So if we are looking at parents, right, and their aspirations, uh, and their engagement today or lack of engagement, whichever way, different, in different kinds of schools it could be different. What is it that you make out of that? I mean, do you see parents being more involved than they should be? Do you see a lack of involvement? Is there something that parents should be actually getting engaged with, which they're not even seeing at this point of time? What would be your observations in this regard?
So, if you speak to private preschool owners, branded preschool or unbranded, you will notice that they are very worried about the competition, and they
Mhm.
bow down to whatever the competition is doing just to get an admission. So, even if it's right or wrong. And that's one of the first things that I have taught my franchisees,
Mhm.
that whatever it is, you need to teach the parent what is right, what to look for. So we have this handout which we call the five senses test. So it's
Mhm.
a test created for parents to go into a preschool and take the five senses test.
Mhm.
So it means use your sense of sight and see whether you can see any cobwebs around. that means the school is not being cleaned properly. Are you seeing proper fire safety around? So we've listed 5 points that you can see through your eyes. 5 points for what you can hear. Are you hearing adults screaming, sorry, shouting? That's not the place for your child then.
Yeah.
Nose, what are the smells that you are getting in that preschool? Touch, touch surfaces to see whether they are having dust on it. Talk, okay, ask about the qualifications of the staff, ask about the trainings that they are giving to the dd's or the ayas in the school. So when you talk to parents and equip them, so my franchisees always had a problem that why should we equip a parent with this? Then he's going to come and test my center. So I said that's very good, because we want parents to test your center, because they should know what they are. And you, by doing this testing, you will kill your competition also, because your parent is going to go and do the same test in that other center. So I feel parents need to be equipped, and this is where the Early Childhood Association also has done a lot, where we audit schools. We do something called a school audit. And a lot of schools are not willing to invest in it, because when we found out why more and more schools are not doing this audit, we found out that they're not doing the audit because they know a lot of their parameters are not being met. Because we self audit first, that you audit your school on your own, and when they see the self audit, they feel अरे बाप रे इतना सब कुछ करना पड़ेगा.
Yeah.
So which means कितना लो है आपका क्वालिटी कि आपको ये लग रहा है इट्स अ बेसिक सेल्फ ऑडिट, आपको उसमें लग रहा है इतना सारा करना पड़ेगा. So this is where somewhere ownership needs to come in, and only when we work hand in hand with the parents. So as a preschool owner, she may be right in thinking that let me hoodwink the parent, but as a brand owner, I cannot allow her to hoodwink a parent, because
Right.
as they say, a bird in hand, okay, is worth more than two in the bush. So most of these preschool owners do a lot of marketing. They waste a lot of budget in marketing for the two in the bush. But the one in the hand which they have, the parents who are already enrolled with them, they're going to become a word of mouth. And that is what we
Exactly.
need to really focus on. So I think we
Right.
need to educate parents, and parents should know, parents should become a little choosy. Parents must know what to look for. Um, I tell so many parents who sometimes come for my school admissions, and I ask them where to stay. So they say we stay far, but hum log bus kar lenge. And I dissuade them. I said, no, no, this is not the age for your child to be traveling by bus.
Right.
So they find it, they give me a very funny look, that you've gone mad. But as I said, your basics should be in place, you
Right.
know, and
Yep.
that should not go away just because you want to make money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes,
This is very
yeah.
interesting. Sorry, Kinnari, you want to come in? Yeah.
I mean, just to extend a couple of points that, I mean, the way you're putting it, Dr. Swati, I think there are very critical points to take home. And I hope our viewers, our prospective students, entrepreneurs, professionals on the ground, they're all kind of making note of the several important things we're saying. So one of the things that what is it that parents should look for, right? Like you said, there are 5 senses. But when we say quality curriculum, today parents do want AC buses. They want AC. They want snow in Indian preschool, right? Because they want them to experience that. Now, how do you therefore work out and get them to really understand what are young years about? What is it to develop, with senses, with nature? What is it that you want to provide to your children, right? You want to provide what you aspire for, or you want to focus on their here and now of the child and their development, right? So what would be your thoughts on what is in terms of this quality or the coffee that parents should look for, right? The curriculum that parents should look for. What is it that they should look for there? That was one of those questions. I thought we should quickly catch you on that.
So I recently made a lot of reels for parents, what you should not look for in a preschool. And if you Google, you'll find them. And I did those because my franchisees came and told me they are asking for horse riding and swimming and all this. So if you see the reel, I'm telling that if you want all this, go to a resort. Don't come to a preschool. So somewhere what has happened is a parent has forgotten what a preschool is for, because so much of marketing has been done. And I don't blame the parent, I blame the brainwashing in the form of marketing which is happening, which tells a parent that I have to have this aspirational value, that I went in a non-AC school bus but I can afford an AC school bus for my child. But the question is, should you be sending your child in a school bus? That should be a question you should be asking yourself. But instead the parent is asking, is ये है कि नहीं? You see where it has gone, what marketing has done. So I tell parents three things, that pehle first look for these three things, then look at the other things. Number one, proximity. Your child is a preschool child. Proximity to your home is very important, because in today's day and age where there are riots suddenly, or it rains so badly, there is so much of climate nonsense happening, you need to be in a place where you can go and pick up your child immediately. And this is something my parents believed in years ago, that of me getting admission in a very good school, my father rejected it because it has to be close to walking distance from our home. That's what he believed in. And in today's day and age, parents need to believe in this. For another reason, proximity. When children spend too much of time in a school bus, it's not good for their physical development. They are sitting in a stuffy bus. There's so much of bullying happening, and then you're sitting sedentary all the time. That 30 minutes also that your child spends in the bus could have been spent in such good activities at home. The second thing I ask them to always look for is the qualification of the staff in the school. So the person whom you are meeting, ask that person's qualification. And because every person needs to have qualification in that school, otherwise don't enroll your child. And I'm very particular that it should be at least a 1 year qualification. I don't want those 3 months and 6 months and all, because you cannot, even a child takes 9 months to be born. How can you say that the teacher will be ready in 3 months and 6 months? And number three is the cleanliness. I say cleanliness and safety go hand in hand. Look around the school. Is your child going to be safe? Because no amount of AC buses or classroom ACs are going to help when your child has an accident. If they don't have a policy for safety, if they don't have a policy for hygiene, that your child is going to be in deep trouble for life, because many of these things are going to affect your child for life. So it's very important, if these three things are in place, these are your basics. And I always sometimes give them an example also, कि जब शादी से पहले तुम क्या तीन चीज पहले देखते हो, कि घर है कि नहीं, पैसा है कि नहीं. So you should look for these things when you are selecting a preschool for your child. And then add-ons, whatever you are getting are your benefits. It's like होता है ना कि इंटरेस्ट मिल गया, अब जो भी ऊपर का मिलेगा वो तो मेरा फायदा हो गया. So ये आपको चाहिए ही चाहिए, these three things. If you don't find these in a preschool, don't take that preschool for your child.
Right. And what about the curricular question? Is there anything that the parent can look for, ask?
If these are in place, then comes your curriculum and everything. What's the point, tell me, of having a great regio curriculum and there is no fire safety in that school? Or what's the point of having a great regio curriculum and your staff is shouting, screaming, and hitting children? What is the point? If you're a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I follow that. Safety, security, my body, more important than self-actualization. So even when you are selecting a preschool for your child, the basics are more important. Even our Panchakosh now in NEP talks about that, that Anandamaya Kosh will come only if you have looked at the basic needs. There is a similarity between the Panchakosh and the Maslow's, is that the basic needs have to be met first before any cognition happens.
Yeah. Keeping us on this line itself, there is another thing that parents these days want schools to provide, even in the early years schools, is with regard to technology. What kind of technology do you have? Will my child be introduced to technology? So what has been your advice to your franchisees, and what would be your advice to parents? And before that, what is your take?
I am a very technology friendly person. So you
Yeah.
will see a lot of technology in my schools, but you will see an immersive spa. Okay,
Mm,
so we have a concept called an immersive spa, which has technology,
mm,
but doesn't have mobile phones. It will not have a screen where children can watch rhymes. It's
mm,
technology where a child is standing and throwing a ball at a screen because of certain objects that the child sees. So it is
mm,
interactive technology. I think we should not keep children away from technology, because the world that they are going to grow up in, what they need is technology literacy. So
mm,
you need to teach the child how much of technology is good for me, what kind of technology is good for me. And technology experts also say that it is the size of the screen that matters. The smaller the size, the worse it is for the child. It is
mm,
the movement. If your child is becoming a container baby because of the technology, then that technology is not good for your child. So, is
mm,
that technology making your child move? It's that technology making your child interact with it.
mm,
Because one of the harmful effects of technology, it's a one-way process, whereas language communication is a two-way process.
mm,
So if you will Google search, there are projects called Podar Jumbo Kids iPad projects.
mm,
We did a project on Mahatma Gandhi, on Van Gogh, with our 4 year olds using iPads. But every kind of activity was linked to the iPad. So there was
mm,
movement activities, there was storytelling, there was drawing, everything. This was our way of telling the world that you cannot keep technology away from children, but you
mm.
need to adopt and adapt that technology to be child friendly. What we
Right.
are doing is the other way around. We are changing the child to adopt to technology. That's not good. We need to have technology literacy, because these children are born in technology. We
Right.
and we were born and then technology entered. These
Mm,
people are immersed in technology.
right. So would you hence, when you're looking at, let's say, recruiting teachers, right, or
Hmm.
to your schools, or you're advising your schools, uh, would you look at some of these skill sets being part of a teacher's repertoire, as they come into a school, even if it's early years, that being very familiar with technology, and along with that, what else would you look for in a teacher? What would you really wish to see in a preschool teacher, even if it's not coming while they're coming into a school, but very quickly, what is it that they need to really build on?
I need two things from a teacher: passion and language.
Mm,
um, if they have both of that, if a teacher tells me, no, I'm a preschool teacher because I love children, I
mm,
reject her.
mm,
Loving children only adds to the population of this country. Loving children doesn't mean that you are passionate about early childhood. So
mm,
if they have these two, we have a process called a 46 hours training, where you
mm,
make them unlearn. You have to make them unlearn whatever they think they know about education,
mm,
because one of them would have worked in a school where it was okay to hold a child's hand and make them write, or
mm,
all kinds of stupid practices. So we need a lot of unlearning to be done. So I'm
mm,
okay if a teacher has the passion that I want to bring a change in early childhood, and she has the language to communicate it, because that becomes very, very, I'm not going to test her grammar or other skills, but she
mm,
should be able to have the confidence to speak, because you need to do a lot of speaking to parents, to children. So you must have a little bit of command on your language, and that becomes more important for me. Every preschool teacher in every center of ours have to mandatorily do our 1 year teacher training program
mhm.
online. They have to
Okay,
mandatorily do it, whether you were qualified or not qualified. So
I
they
see.
have to do that. So that's
Mm,
part of it. So for me, I'm not worried about what they know or what
mm.
they don't know. I'm more worried about how they are and who they are.
Right. Wonderful. Before Kinnari can come in, all our audience are excited. In fact, we should share with you. Last time they were very disappointed
I'm so
when we.
I'm the
No, but then I
first
think
to apologize to
we
your
made
audience.
amends. We made amends. A lot of them, I'm sure, are those who followed you. Be it YouTube, Facebook, the TEDx talks that you've given. So we already started receiving many comments. I would just encourage you to also ask questions, if any, which we can put across to Dr. Swati. Sukinari, over to
Yeah, so one of the things about the sector today, right, is that, of course, there are preschools and teaching as a career, curriculum development as a career. There are those usual, go to kind of careers. And I think your journey is a reflection of the several things that is possible. And
Yes.
that you now see the space so closely with this large scale work that is happening across the country. What are some of the potential areas, that you see, that we as early childhood professionals, child development and human development specialists, we've not explored? When we visit several of these young graduates in many colleges across the country and home science colleges, right, they can perhaps think of a special needs teacher, or they can think of being a counselor, maybe in a school counselor, but they don't see themselves as a professional who is able to see, the life cycle of childhood really, and then the parenthood and what all is needed within that. So yeah, what do you think is uh, teaching as a core, curriculum development as the next level, but and then a teacher trainer, those kind of are something inside the classroom, right? But there are so many things that are
Mm.
around the classroom today, which may be potential areas that we as professionals should be exploring. So yeah, your thoughts on that
So
would
I'm
be.
so happy you asked that, because I feel as professionals or budding professionals in our country, we limit ourselves to one aspect of early childhood. Today, I'm able to do what I'm able to do is because I involved myself in every aspect of early childhood education, be it policy, be it business, be it legal, be it curriculums from other countries, be it educational, theories, or be it educational pioneers. Uh, I feel the professionals today are limiting themselves and saying, I'm going to become a curriculum developer. But to become a curriculum developer, you will need to know what are the curriculums in the world, what are the theories that are used in these curriculums, which educational pioneers worked on these theories. So you see, there is an interconnectedness of everything. Uh, there is certain amount of law also involved, because what can I take and what can I not take from another country or from another curriculum, etc. So there is so much of interrelatedness. Today companies appoint a curriculum developer again from a business angle कि आपका curriculum बिकेगा ना. So you see, everything that I spoke about, all the aspects that I spoke about are interwoven. You know, I did a study of 38 countries and studied their curriculum and their early childhood policies. And from there, then I realized that one of the best curriculums in the world was the EYFS of UK, early years foundation stage. Why? Because it's the only curriculum in the world that has curriculum and assessment merged together.
you.
You are assessing the child on the same parameters as the curriculum. Now, not many people know about it. If you look at the Tewariki of New Zealand, excellent when it comes to your socio-emotional skills. Or if you look at Australia, okay, being, belonging, and becoming. What a brilliant curriculum for again socio-emotional development. EYLF, So if and I've had schools, I have had the opportunity to work in the UAE, I've had the opportunity to work in Qatar, where we have our schools. So law, what law comes in to control quality. And so brilliant when you study the holisticness of our field rather than departmentalize it. Gijubai Badeka, when I first wrote the book on it, not many people in India knew about Gijubai Badeka. Why? 1920, this man makes the first Balwadi in our country. And why don't we as educators know about it? So I feel all professionals, all people who want to come into this field must expose themselves and not limit themselves. No course is going to teach you. I think as
Mm.
Indians, we are very course oriented, that
Mm.
whatever the course teaches me, that is it. And
Mm.
nowadays, we've become very dependent on Chat GPT and AI. I
Mm.
have regular fights with Chat GPT because whenever I put something on Chat GPT and it gives me an answer and I find a mistake, I
Mm.
tell it that this is wrong. So I need to know even to get from Chat GPT, no? So
Exactly.
people today believe that Chat GPT will give me everything. No, Chat GPT can be wrong. Look at the disclaimer that is put below. It says
Mm.
that Chat GPT can make mistakes too.
Mm.
These skills, I feel anyone coming into the profession must have a mentor,
Right.
adopt a mentor and learn as much as you can from that mentor, and have many mentors, because you
Right.
never know what law about early childhood can teach you, what policies about early childhood of different states can teach you. So
Mm.
much, so much.
Right. In fact, you are a great mentor, says a comment on our chat, and that's you. So there are lots of positive comments coming in. Very well said, and you're absolutely correct. In terms of what you're sharing. There is also a comment by someone who've gone through your ECC ed at Podar, and saying
Okay.
that they're really proud of it, Ms. Samata, saying that it really provided what is required. You also, Dr. Swati, spoke of looking at qualification of a teacher, right? I mean, when
Yes.
parents look at schools, to ask as to what is it that a
Hmm.
teacher is, or whether there is a qualification to begin with. What kind of certificates, courses do you think are useful? What are the ones? So for instance, someone aspiring, what would you suggest would be the kinds of certificates and courses that they should be looking at?
So ideally, if you have done your BSc or MSc in human development, that's a good start, I would say. But I've noticed those who do MSc and BSc in home human development, they don't want to
Mm.
become teachers. They don't want to join a classroom. I'm surprised why they don't want to do that.
Mm.
But then, yes, any course that is at least 10 months long, where IGNU has a lovely course on early childhood also.
Mm.
I think give yourself at least 10 months to study early childhood education.
Mm.
That doesn't stop me from appointing teachers who have done less, because, as I told you, it's mandatory. They will do a 1 year course with us. But
Mm.
I feel some qualification in early childhood, whether you've done your Montessori course or some early childhood qualification, is required. You cannot just say that I'm a graduate and so make me a pre primary teacher.
Mm.
You need to do some qualification, because we are
Mm.
somewhere belittling the status of our sector by
Mm.
saying anybody can become a teacher.
Right.
So I think it's very important. And now the NEP also states, but the NEP states for Anganwadis that
Mm.
those who have already been working as Anganwadi workers will do a 3 month program, and those who have not yet started, they will do a 6 month program. So I hope the teacher curriculum framework that comes out has some better plan. So some qualification at least. I'm not going to categorize into right and wrong, but I would say
Mm.
a basic teacher qualification in early childhood is a
Right.
must. B.Ed also does not prepare you to become an early childhood teacher.
Right.
So I don't accept B.Ed as a qualification to become an early childhood teacher.
Mm. Yeah. So, in fact, there's this one question. Maybe we can take that, and Kinnari then would also present in terms of the masters in education in early childhood care and education that we are,
Oh,
going to offer
wonderful.
at Azim Premji University. Yeah, she's going to share that. But then this question, I think, would be interesting to respond to. Miss Asha asks, she asks, technology is part in today's teaching learning process. and you mentioned about use of iPads in schools. I mean, some of the illustrations that you gave. How to take this across to the government schools? I mean, sometimes we do this, that everything that you see
Hmm.
somewhere is the only way to improve quality, and that has to
Hmm.
be taken in.
Hmm.
So, is there a slightly different way of looking at this, and how would you put that across? So,
I think
is
public-private
technology to be
partnership,
taken?
if
Yeah.
it works, you can
Mm,
have companies have a huge CSR model now. They can
mm,
donate these kind of things to children. I preferred an iPad because it's more hands-on rather than a computer screen. I noticed that in front of a computer screen, a child has to be like this, so it
mm,
affects their spine. So we
mm,
made proper arrangements that they are not like this when they are using the iPads, but they
mm,
are like a book. So we had a kind of a slanted platform on which they keep the iPad, so they're not getting that hunch, etc. But
right.
and we didn't have iPad for every child. 5 children were sharing one iPad, because
Mm,
it's all about teaching them collaboration. It's all about teaching them how to share, how to care. So
right.
you don't need many iPads in the classroom. So say, for example, if you have 40 children in the classroom, just get 5 iPads and
Yeah.
do the project. You can see it, it's on YouTube. It's a wonderful project that uses all the things that you do. It uses art, it uses everything. uh,
Right.
it's teaching the child that technology is just one more additional tool. I don't have to
Right.
fall in love with it or be enamored by it. Just
Right.
like I use a crayon or I use a
Mm,
pencil, I'm going to use an iPad. It's as simple as that.
yeah. And I think, I mean, you would extend it to say that hence, till I have an iPad, I will use various other technology that I
Yes,
have. For
why
instance,
not?
even a crayon and a chart.
Why
And
not? Of course. And
yeah.
if you have a look at that project, you'll realize it's not replacing the crayons.
Mm,
It's not replacing the other things. It's
right.
adding the iPad to one of the activities.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
You know,
Thanks for
one
that.
of the most important things which I did when I did a course abroad,
Mm,
they used to give a camera in the hands of every child, and
mm,
they used to ask children to take a picture,
mm,
and then they would sit with every child and discuss that picture. Technology
oh,
can even be something as simple as that. That
right.
you all have mobile phones in the classroom. So today is Yash's turn to take a picture with a mobile phone, and you're
Mm,
giving him the mobile phone throughout the day. Whenever Yash wants to take a picture in the day, he will take a picture.
mm,
Next day or on the same day, the teacher prints out all the photographs that Yash has taken, and
mm,
everybody has a discussion, and everybody asks Yash, why did you feel like taking this picture? See, now it's where's the technology in this? It's so
right.
much in part with everything else that you want to do with it. This is
Exactly.
how technology should be used in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Kinari, also some
Yeah,
questions coming on our masters, or
correct.
masters in
Yeah,
early childhood
yeah.
distance and all that. Would you want to
I shall
share
move to
after
that.
that?
I just on the technology and this last bit of conversation you both were having, I wanted to highlight something that, we again, as listeners, audience, teachers, practicing teachers, professionals working, we tend to get carried away by phrases,
Hmm.
technology,
Hmm.
iPad,
Hmm.
mobiles, right? It's the use of it and it's the thoughtful
Yes.
use of it. I think
Yes.
that's what you're trying to highlight, which again, the
Yes.
messaging somehow we I mean, so again, a request to the audience that a lot of what is being said, one has to see it in totality, that an informed teacher, a teacher who's gone
Yes.
through a list of things that were discussed earlier, the theory of child development, the various ways of looking at learning, and laws and all of those aspects, and then you become a thoughtful teacher to say that yes, I can today use a phone, or I can use a crayon, or I can bring an iPad, or something
Yes.
else inside the classroom. It's not the blind one screen available, children passively sitting and listening and following and mimicking stories and listening to monkeys jumping on the bed, right? That's not what technology usage is about. And therefore, whether or not it is there in your classroom is something that one shouldn't feel, oh, I don't have iPad, so I can't do that project or I can't do that activity. It is something that really one works with within the context that the child is in, the teacher is in, and you bring in tools like this to be able to work with children well, right? And finally, the development of children, the quality that we're looking for, all of that needs to be first primary thing that we are looking at, and not the tools and the gadgets inside the classroom. So I just thought I'll try and bring this, because so many things have been said. As a listener, we often get carried away by terms and not see it through. Right. So I'll now move on to this particular master's in early childhood care and education. I think it'll be interesting for you, Dr. Swati, as well as our audience, some of them who've been a part of it. We launched a 2-year, let me try and present it very briefly. I mean, our admission cycles have closed, all of that has happened, but just absolutely quickly to let everyone know what it is about. You can, of course, visit our website and also read up more, have a full video that describes the program well. So at the Azim Premji University, recognizing the need of the sector and this trained professional need, we had a long discussion just now that the gap is quality and qualification. And one of the interventions that at a university we feel, apart from research and field and other work, is to offer high quality programs. And many questions in the chat are asking, is there distance mode? Yes, we do offer a blended diploma program. It's a postgraduate diploma program, and it is taken in several certificates to then form a 1-year full diploma. That's for working professionals. If you are a young graduate or somebody who wants to invest a full 2 years in a new master's program, then this is something that we have launched, and it starts in July. These are the range of courses. In fact, several of those resonate with what Dr. Swati was just sharing. The domain, understanding children, understanding play and creativity, research as master's level program, working on the field with evidence and to create new evidence, right? Both are necessary. Curriculum for foundational years. I think, again, there were a couple of questions asking, therefore, what is it that we value? What is it that we should value, right, when we talk of learning? Early language literacy becomes the focus, but what is the role of oral language, right? What is the role of early inquiry and mathematics? And finally, what is it about professional development as what we should look at? This particular program, we think, is unique because people who would want to pursue a field internship track, prepare themselves for professionals, can take a practice pathway. And those of them who want to study further, get into research, can take a research pathway. And that comes as an option in your second year of the program. And then, of course, a range of course, and one of this which we really look forward to is media in early years, early intervention, and something on entrepreneurial aspect. How do you build high quality early childhood centers, right? So these are just a glimpse of what the program is about. For those of you who are attending the webinar for the first time, our university campus in Bhopal looks something like this. It's a modern architecture, lush green, interesting space, and residential campus. The Bhopal campus, that's our second campus where Masters in Education is offered, and several other undergrad and postgraduate degrees. And so if you happen to inquire, know of people who are looking to pursue high quality master's program, that's something that, or an undergrad program, you can just visit our website and see. And of course, early years is a high field in need right now. Admissions criteria, I wouldn't go through this, but our next admission cycle will now start in November. And this is typically what we look at. Our CUT admissions are going on right now as we speak. And you can be an undergrad with any degree to do this program, right? You don't have to do a child development BSc or a human development BSc. You can have an undergrad in any discipline and then opt for this Master of Arts. You can be a practitioner, you can be an engineer, you can be any domain that you have worked in earlier. Working professionals are, folks that we really kind of look forward to when you want to make a shift and invest yourself a 2-year program or do our the diplomas that we were referring to. So I stop here. I think
it's almost time also to thank Dr. Swati. But Dr. Swati, there have been lots of questions, and I think what I would also suggest to those who have not gone on to your webpage and looked at the links, looked at your talks, maybe many of the questions, the answers could also be there. But is there anything that you would encourage all of us to also view, anything other than, for instance, you also encourage us to look at the projects, right? So anything else that you may want to share before we can thank you and close this?
Anything, anytime, I'm there for Azim Premji. I've been a huge fan of this university. You all are doing such wonderful work, and I'll urge all the listeners. These programs are a must, and you must invest in your upskilling uh, whenever possible with good universities and good courses. Whatever I said is all available on the net. Google search and go to YouTube, and you'll find all these videos. I believe in sharing, so a lot of my stuff is out there on Google. You just Google it out, and any help, I'm always there.
That's so lovely. So kind of you. Thank you so much. And just as Dr. Swati said, even this conversation that we've had with her will be on our YouTube channel. Some of you were apologetic that you came in late, and they were saying, how much of Dr. Swati did we miss? Well, you can go back to our YouTube channel and you will have the entire conversation there. Kinnari, you want to just close?
I mean, thank you all for joining us. Many of you have been very regular. Dr. Swati, thanks for making time. I'm sure you have several engagements, but these little inputs hopefully brings the sector together, builds the sector and the quality that we're looking for every child in our country. Thank you so much.
And
thank
if you could
all,
just
and
be
see you
online
all.
for a little bit.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you all. See you all next month. We see you now in June. We are already midway through 2025. We'll keep you posted on the next webinar. Thank you so much. Goodbye and good evening.
See you, everyone. Thank you.